The thunder rolled low across the hills as the power flickered out, casting his sprawling countryside estate into shadow and silence. Julian Roth, the elusive billionaire who hadn't opened his doors to anyone in years, stood by the window, watching. The storm cracked the sky apart. Downstairs, she waited at Amelia, the shy assistant sent by the agency to deliver documents before the lightning trapped her inside. She had never spoken more than a few words to him before tonight, but something in the air shifted the moment the rain began to fall. Her dress clung to her in the dim light, soaked and trembling, but her eyes were steady and full of quiet curiosity. He should have sent her to the guest wing, should have turned away, but instead, he asked if she was cold, and when she nodded, he offered his hand. Neither of them spoke about what was happening, but everything in the silence said they both felt it. If this powerful first chapter gripped your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. This story is just beginning, and what happens next will leave you breathless. Julian led her to the grand sitting room where a fire already crackled its warmth, pushing back the chill that clung to her soaked skin. He draped a thick blanket around her shoulders, but his fingers brushed the bare skin of her neck, lingering just a moment too long. Amelia sat quietly on the edge of the velvet sofa, unsure whether she was more afraid of the storm outside or the one building between them. He poured 2 glasses of brandy, the golden liquid glowing in the firelight, and handed her one with a gaze that was unreadable and intense. "I don't usually have guests," he said, his voice low and quiet. "I didn't mean to be one," she replied, her voice barely a whisper. Something about her innocence made his chest ache. He hadn't felt this alive in years. The storm raged louder beyond the windows, but inside, everything was still. She shivered again, and he moved beside her, the couch groaning beneath his weight as his warmth radiated toward her. "Are you always this quiet?" he asked, trying to pierce the fog of her stillness. "Only when I feel out of place," she answered, but the way she met his eyes told him she was braver than she appeared. His fingers grazed hers as she set down her glass, and the air between them became thick, like something waiting to ignite. Julian had spent years in control, but this girl, wet-haired and whited, and settled everything he thought he knew about restraint. Her lips were parted slightly, her breath uneven, and when he brushed a lock of hair from her cheek, she didn't pull away. "If I'm crossing a line," he said, "tell me to stop." But Amelia only whispered, "I don't want you to." The kiss was slow, like the beginning of something neither dared to name, and when he deepened it, she clung to him like he was the only real thing in the world. Her hands trembled against his chest, not from fear, but from the weight of what this meant. She had never kissed anyone like this, never been this close, never given herself to anyone. Julian felt it instantly, the hesitation, the sacredness, the way she trusted him without fully understanding why. "Have you ever?" he began, pulling back slightly to search her face. "No," she said, her voice barely audible, "but I want to with you." It broke something in him, and healed something else. He kissed her forehead before anything else, knowing that what happened tonight would change everything for them both. When he awoke the next morning, she was still there, curled against him in the golden light, the blanket wrapped around her bare skin like a fragile secret. Julian stared at the ceiling, his chest tight with something unfamiliar. Regret, fear, or maybe something deeper. He had touched her, held her, taken something precious, and now he didn't know how to let her go. Amelia stirred slowly, her fingers brushing his chest, her eyes finding his with a sleepy vulnerability that made him ache. "Are you okay?" he asked gently. She nodded, then said, "Are you?" He didn't know how to answer that because, the truth was, he wasn't sure who he was anymore after her, and part of him feared he'd never be the same. Later that morning, as the rain turned to mist, she began gathering her things with quiet hands and downcast eyes. "You don't have to go," Julian said, but there was something hesitant in his voice, like he didn't know if he deserved to ask. "This wasn't supposed to happen," she replied softly. You." Her words weren't cruel, just honest, and he hated how much truth there was in them. She looked at him one last time, as if memorizing his face, then stepped out into the gray morning. He didn't stop her, even though every part of him wanted to. Julian watched from the window as she disappeared down the gravel path, soaked in a silence that felt heavier than thunder. For the first time in years, he felt powerless, and he had no idea why her absence cut deeper than any betrayal he'd ever known. Amelia returned to her small apartment above the flower shop where she worked, her body still aching in unfamiliar ways, her heart tangled in confusion. She had never imagined her first time would be with someone like him, older, wealthier, untouchable, and yet, she didn't regret it. What scared her more was how much she missed him. Julian, meanwhile, returned to the silence of his estate, where nothing had changed except him. The house was cold again, the fire dead, and no trace of her remained except the scent on his sheets and the ghost of her voice. He wanted to call her, to ask her if she was okay, but what right did he have? She deserved freedom, not pressure. And yet, he couldn't stop wondering if she was thinking of him too. Over the next few days, Amelia wrote and rewrote a letter she never mailed, pouring out everything she felt but couldn't say. "You were gentle, you were patient, you made me feel safe when I expected to feel ashamed." But every time she folded the paper and looked at the envelope, fear stopped her. What if he regretted it? What if he saw her as just a mistake? Julian, on the other side of the city, stood by his fireplace holding her forgotten hair tie like it was a sacred relic. He hadn't touched another woman, hadn't even returned his calls. He just replayed that night over and over. The storm outside had passed, but inside them both, it was still pouring. He sent her a message through the agency, inviting her to dinner not at the estate, but at a small, hidden restaurant with no photographers, no staff, just them. She didn't answer for 3 days. When she finally replied, all it said was, "I'm afraid it'll mean too much." Julian stared at the words for a long time, heart sinking, because they were the same fears echoing inside him. But he couldn't let her go not like this. He wrote back simply, maybe meaning something is exactly what we both need. She didn't respond that night, but she showed up the next evening. And when he saw her standing in the doorway, beautiful, unsure, he knew this wasn't just about desire anymore. Dinner was soft and slow, filled with long silences and glances that said more than words ever could. She wore a simple dress, her hair down, no makeup, just herself, exactly as she had been that night. He didn't touch her hand, didn't push, didn't even ask her to stay. He just listened. And when she finally said, "I've never stopped thinking about you," he exhaled like someone who had been underwater for too long. "Then why did you leave without a word?" he asked. Her eyes shimmered as she whispered, "Because I was scared that once you knew how little I had, you wouldn't want me." Julian leaned forward, voice cracked and soft. "But you don't understand, Amelia. That night, you gave me everything." That night, they walked through the city after dinner, the cold air wrapping around them as if to remind them how real this was. Julian didn't hold her hand at first, but when she stumbled slightly on the cobblestones, he reached for her, didn't let go again. "Do you really think I wouldn't want you just because you don't come from my world?" he asked, stopping beneath the street lamp. "I thought you wanted someone more polished," she whispered, eyes on the ground. "No," he said, lifting her chin gently. "I wanted someone real, and that night, you changed everything I thought I knew about love." She looked at him, unsure whether to believe it. If you've ever felt like you weren't enough, this story is for you. Like, comment, and subscribe to the channel if you believe real love sees beyond status. Julian drove her the next day to a quiet lake house just outside the city, a place no one but his late mother had ever visited. It was small, humble, with worn wooden curtains that smelled like lavender and rain. "You brought me here," she said in awe, stepping into the sunlight-filled kitchen. "Because it's the only place I've ever felt safe," he admitted. They spent hours on the dock in silence, her head on his shoulder, the water lapping gently beneath them. She asked about his past, and he told her things he'd never told anyone, how money gave him walls, not peace. That night, they lay beneath the stars on a blanket, and he whispered, "I don't want you for one night anymore." And this time, she didn't tremble when she said, "Then don't ever let me go." Back in the city, whispers started to swirl, rumors in magazines, photos of them leaving dinner, comments from jealous executives, and icy women in designer heels. Amelia saw her name in an article, "The girl who tamed Julian Roth, or is she just another pretty secret?" She tried to brush it off, but every look she got at work reminded her how fragile her place in his world still was. Julian wanted to shield her, but she refused to hide again. "I won't be your secret," she said one night, her voice firm but her hands shaking. "Then I'll make you my future," he promised. And from that moment, he started bringing her not through back doors but by his side, proud and unashamed. At a charity gala, she met her Genevieve Hartley, Julian's ex and longtime business partner, tall, icy, flawless in diamonds and disdain. "Oh," Genevieve said with a tight smile, "you're the storm girl." Amelia stood her ground, nervous but refusing to shrink. "I suppose I am," she answered, "and you should know he stayed after the storm." Genevieve's expression tightened, but she walked away without another word. That night, Julian held Amelia tighter than ever, whispering, "She's my past. You're the only future I want." Amelia didn't say anything. She didn't need to, because deep down, she believed him. One evening, after a tense meeting with Julian's legal team, Amelia excused herself to breathe, but didn't come back. Her phone was off. Her apartment was locked. Julian's chest tightened with panic, the same fear that haunted him the first time she left. Hours passed before she finally called, her voice small. "I needed to remember who I was before all of this." He didn't yell, he didn't accuse, he just said, "I'll always wait. But please, let me wait with you, not for you." And for the first time, she realized he wasn't trying to keep her, he was trying to walk beside her. Amelia wrote it in the middle of the night, sitting on his piano bench, barefoot and tearful. "You were scared, but you still showed up. You were inexperienced, but you still gave love. You thought you were nothing, but you gave a man everything without realizing it." She folded the letter and slipped it into her journal, pressing it between the pages like a flower from another life. Julian found her there in the dark, arms wrapped around her knees. He didn't ask what was wrong, he just sat beside her and held her until the sun came up. That morning, she kissed him first, without fear, and he knew she was becoming whole again, piece by piece. On his birthday, Julian didn't want a party or gifts, just a quiet evening with her. Amelia led him blindfolded into his study, where where she'd transformed the space into a gallery of their story. Paintings of storms, candles, the lake house, a girl in rain, a man alone. "This is everything we've lived," she said, trembling slightly, "and I want you to know, I wouldn't change a single night." He didn't speak, he just kissed her, long and deep, overwhelmed. "Later," he whispered, "I've had everything money could buy, but this what you just gave me is the only thing I'll ever need." Julian tried to offer her a job in his foundation, wanting to support her growth and bring her into his world. But Amelia hesitated. "People already think I'm here. For your money, I can't lose myself in your shadow." He nodded, though it hurt, and said, "Then tell me how to help you shine without standing in front of you." She began teaching art classes at a local center, helping quiet teens like she once was. Julian showed up to every exhibit, never as the billionaire, just as the man who loved her. And slowly, people stopped whispering, because Amelia had built something that no tabloid could tear down. They walked along the beach one late afternoon, just before a storm rolled in again, the sky echoing the memory of the night everything began. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if the storm hadn't trapped me?" she asked. Julian smiled softly. "Then I would have missed the best accident of my life." The wind picked up, and she turned to face him, her hair wild and eyes steady. "Julian, I've loved you since that night, but now I love myself too." He cupped her face, pride swelling in his chest. "Then we finally survived the storm. As the rain began to fall, she stood in it again, not afraid, not lost, but alive." Julian ran to her, coat soaked, heart open, and she laughed, spinning, once before falling into his arms. "I'm not the same girl you touched that night," she whispered against his chest. "I know," he murmured, holding her tighter. "You're stronger now, and somehow, even more beautiful." She looked up, tears mixing with rain, and said, "I don't want to be a secret storm in your past. I want to be your forever." And he replied, "You already are." One evening, Amelia found a hidden room in Julian's estate, filled with photos and letters from a past he never spoke about. Her heart raced as she saw a woman smiling in every picture, his late sister, who had died tragically young. Julian caught her staring and confessed how he had buried his grief in work and solitude, afraid to open up. "You found a place in my life I thought was forever closed," he said softly. Amelia touched his hand. "Then don't close it again." The storm outside mirrored the emotions inside, but for the first time, they faced it together, unafraid. With every conversation and quiet moment, trust blossomed between them, fragile yet unbreakable. Julian let her see his vulnerabilities, the moments when power didn't shield him, and Amelia shared her dreams beyond the stormy night. They laughed, cried, and built a secret world where money and fame had no place. "I used to think I needed to control everything," Julian admitted one night, "but you taught me to let go." Amelia smiled, feeling the truth in his words and the warmth of their growing bond. And in that glow, the world outside their walls faded into insignificance. A knock came late one night, jolting them from their peace. A young woman, desperate and bruised, claiming she was running from a dangerous man. Amelia immediately recognized the fear she once carried, and Julian knew he couldn't turn her away. Together, they offered her refuge, safety, and the chance to heal. The experience tested their fragile happiness, but also strengthened their commitment to protect those who, like Amelia, had once been lost. In giving shelter, they found purpose beyond their own love, just as things seemed to settle. A scandal erupted. False accusations aimed at Julian threatened to tear their world apart. Headlines screamed betrayal, and Amelia's loyalty was questioned by those who never truly knew her. The media frenzy forced Julian to fight not only for his reputation but for the woman who had become his anchor. Standing beside him through every whisper and shadow, Amelia found courage she never knew she had. Their love was no longer a secret. It was a battle cry in the pouring rain of a public storm. Julian took Amelia's hand and vowed never to let anything or anyone come between them again. "This is my promise to you," he said, voice steady, despite the chaos around them. Amelia looked up at him, tears mingling with raindrops. "I believe you," she whispered. The crowd around them faded, and all that remained was the fierce connection between two souls who had weathered every tempest. That night, the storm outside was nothing compared to the one they had overcome together. Between the battles and the headlines, Julian and Amelia found solace in everyday joys: morning coffee, whispered secrets, and gentle touches. They learned that love wasn't always grand gestures, but the small acts that built trust and comfort. Amelia painted again, colors vibrant and raw, while Julian surprised her with quiet dinners and unexpected notes. Their hearts mended slowly, stitch by stitch, creating a tapestry stronger than either had imagined. Julian invited Amelia to a gala where she would be honored for her charity work. Stepping into the spotlight for the first time as his partner, nervous but radiant, she faced the crowd with grace, her story inspiring many. Julian watched with pride, knowing that she had transformed not just his life, but the lives of countless others. The night ended with a private dance beneath chandeliers where no words were needed, only the rhythm of their hearts beating in perfect sync, despite their progress. Shadows of doubt crept in when Julian's ex-business partner reappeared, sowing mistrust and stirring old wounds. Amelia felt the sting of jealousy and questioned whether their love could truly survive the ghosts of his past. Julian reassured her with unwavering devotion, promising transparency and honesty. Together, they faced a challenge, proving that love could conquer even the darkest doubts. On a quiet night by the fireplace, they shared secrets never spoken before, fears, regrets, and dreams laid bare. Amelia confessed her deepest insecurities, and Julian revealed the pain of losing his sister. Their honesty forged a new level of intimacy, binding them closer than ever. As the firelight flickered, they promised to face every storm side by side, no matter how fierce. If this chapter touched your heart, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more heartfelt stories. Your support means the world. Julian and Amelia stood together as the first light of dawn broke, symbolizing a new chapter in their lives. They knew the road ahead wouldn't be without challenges, but their love was now a force that could weather anything. Hand in hand, they faced the future not as two broken souls, but as one unbreakable heart. The storm had passed, and in its wake, they found forever. Months later, Amelia and Julian revisited the places that had shaped their journey, from the stormy estate to the quiet lake house. They talked openly about mistakes, regrets, and the wounds that still lingered beneath the surface. Julian asked for forgiveness not just for himself, but for the times they both doubted each other. Amelia's tears fell freely as she whispered, "I forgive you, and I forgive myself." That day, they laid down the heavy burdens they carried and took a deep breath, ready to build a future free from shadows. Just as life settled into calm, a surprise came knocking. The young woman they had once helped appeared at their door, radiant and strong. She brought with her a story of courage and recovery that inspired them both. Amelia realized that healing was a journey, not a destination, and that their love had become a beacon for others. Julian smiled, knowing their home was no longer just a refuge for two hearts, but a sanctuary for many. Amelia's art evolved, no longer confined to personal expression, but embracing the stories of those who had found strength through struggle. She curated exhibitions dedicated to survival, love, and hope, each piece a testament to resilience. Julian supported her wholeheartedly, investing in community programs and using his influence to amplify voices often ignored. Together, they transformed pain into beauty, proving that from the darkest storms, the brightest colors emerge. Julian planned a surprise party for Amelia's birthday, inviting friends, family, and the many lives she had touched. The night was filled with laughter, music, and heartfelt speeches that left both of them overwhelmed. When Amelia took the stage to speak, her voice trembled with emotion as she thanked Julian for believing in her when she doubted herself most. "You didn't just save me," she said. "You loved me into being." Julian's eyes shone with pride, and love their journey had transformed them both in ways they never imagined. Despite the happiness, Julian faced a moment of doubt, old insecurities creeping back in like a quiet storm. Amelia noticed the tension and refused to let him retreat into silence. One rainy evening, she confronted him gently, reminding him that love wasn't about perfection but about standing together. Through every tempest, they cried, laughed, and promised to always fight for their love, no matter how fierce the storms. Spring arrived with fresh blooms and new beginnings. Amelia and Julian decided to start a family, embracing the hope and uncertainty that came with it. They transformed a sunlit room into a nursery, filling it with colors and dreams. Their love had grown beyond a single night. It was now the foundation of a lifetime. And as they painted the walls together, their laughter echoed through the house, a melody of promise and joy. One quiet night, Amelia dreamed of the stormy night that had changed everything: the thunder, the rain, the vulnerability. But this time, she woke with a smile, knowing they had survived. Julian held her close, whispering words of love and reassurance. They made plans, whispered hopes, and dreamed of a future where no storm could tear them apart. Their hearts beat as one, steady and strong. Amelia wrote a letter to their unborn child, filled with hopes, dreams, and truths about love and resilience. She spoke of storms that teach courage, of nights that lead to dawn, and of two people who found each other. Against all odds, Julian promised to keep the letter safe, to read it together when the time came. It was a promise of Lagusha, testament to the power of love that changes worlds. The day finally came when their child was born, healthy and radiant, a new beginning, wrapped in tiny hands and hopeful eyes. Julian and Amelia held their baby, close, tears of joy mingling with whispered prayers. They knew the road ahead would have challenges, but nothing could compare to the miracle they now held. In that quiet hospital room, surrounded by love, they felt the storm inside them finally settled. Thank you for following this incredible journey. If this story moved your heart, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel to support more stories like this. Your love means everything. Years later, Amelia and Julian stood together once more beneath a gentle rain, smiling as their child played nearby. The thunderstorms of their past were memories, now lessons that had shaped them, not broken them. Hand in hand, they faced the future with courage and unshakable love. Because sometimes, The most powerful storms bring the brightest light, and their forever had finally come.